are you?
Good.
Another day, another press conference.
Indeed. Hey mate, how are you? Good to see you.
All going well?
Yeah. That's right.
Jeff Tees, he was singing your praise the other day.
Oh gee, okay.
He's a nice boy. I'm not
He is very good. He's done a good job in that role.
Yeah. He was saying sort of was a bit foreign to the government relations, but he's found his feet now.
Yeah, absolutely. All good. No problem. Good to go? Okay. Yeah.
Is that tight enough, or do you want one on each side?
That's right. Well, yeah. Yeah. They'll be very kind to you. They won't be to me. All right. Well, good morning. It's great to be here at the world famous Gabba. Indeed, part of there with the likes of Old Trafford, Port Elizabeth, Eden Gardens, and indeed the MCG. And mentioning the MCG, also the only other venue in the world other than the MCG to host an AFL Grand Final. So it's really important that we see this historic and world famous venue play an amazing role as part of Brisbane, Queensland and Australia's commitment to hosting the world's biggest sporting event, the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And it's really important that we make sure that this is a venue that is fit for purpose and serves us in the long term. Serves those people who are excited about the way in which this venue will deliver in 2032, but also excited about how it will continue to deliver for the state for decades to come. And one of the real challenges of this venue which has, in the stadium style that it's been, basically started that process of turning it from an old cricket ground into a stadium like it is now, started 30 years ago this month. And that means that unfortunately this venue is not fit for purpose for the 21st century. It's not fit for purpose for being accessible for those range of fans and indeed athletes who want to enjoy this venue. The reality is that this is a venue that is not disability friendly. 42,000 fans coming in here for the stadium at the moment for major events. There are 3 lifts that service the venue. One of those is a goods lift. The reality is that this is not a venue that is friendly to those people with, who need a more accessible venue, those people living with disabilities in our community who want to enjoy being a spectator here, or indeed, when we come to that most extraordinary event that we'll celebrate in 2032, the Paralympics, be competitors here. It's also designed in such a way from a different era that it doesn't have the right sort of facilities that cater for the breadth of female athletes that are now using this venue on a regular basis. And frankly, that's not acceptable. That's why it's so important that we see a new Gabba rise out of this, site, a new Gabba rise out of this opportunity that is the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And that's why I know sport across the board are excited about what a new Gabba will bring and what it can bring. And that's why it's equally so disappointing that we have some people in the community, I'll call them out specifically, the Greens, who say that they are for accessibility and fairness, but when it comes to a venue like this, for a city of our size, a venue that's important for who we are and how we tell our stories, they don't want that to be accessible. They want to leave it as it is and not see any change. That's why I think it's vitally important that we make sure that the whole of the community understands what a new Gabba is all about. It's not about one event or even two events in the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2032 for a few weeks. It's about what we can deliver for our community and the accessibility of our community for years to come. And that's why it's great to be here with Matt and Sam from the Rollers, the Australian men's wheelchair basketball team, athletes who know how important it is to have facilities that are accessible, and indeed as people in the community who know how it's important as a spectator to have accessibility at venues that are as important as this one. But it's also good to be here with the Sherwood under-9s AFL team, some of whom are certainly in that frame to be able to be ready to be playing potentially for an AFLW Lions team here on this ground in that time frame beyond 2030. So it's really exciting to know that we've now got this commitment to the delivery of a world-class venue, that'll deliver for sport week in, week out, and deliver for events over that time frame, but do so in a way that's fairer and more equitable and more accessible for all. Well, in the design, the specific design that's being created as a benchmark for then a further design process to occur, that benchmark involves raising a concourse platform to an area that would mean that it'd be basically rolling straight from the Cross River Rail Station here at Wollongabba straight onto the major concourse level that would allow people on one single level to go the whole way round the ground. That's not currently possible the way this venue works. That isn't the sort of accessibility it has for anyone, be it someone in a chair, be it someone pushing a pram, be it someone with just some more low-level mobility issues that prefer a flat surface. That's one element, but of course there'll be other elements including extra lifts, extra support, those basically what we call those modern 21st century standards around disability access.
Surely those improvements, if you were to do them all, wouldn't cost $2.7 billion. Is that not a cost-effective way to go about it?
Well, the fundamentals is that if we're to host the Olympic and Paralympic Games here, we need to change the shape of the venue. It's a circle. The track doesn't fit in the circle as it is. We need to turn it into an oval, and that's the fundamental start of the decision-making around this process. But it has opened up all these other opportunities for place-making about not only the stadium, but the rest of the Gabba precinct here that will make it more accessible and more user-friendly to so many people right across the city and make it a place-making opportunity for this city for decades to come. Well, it was, as I said earlier, it's 30 years ago this month that the beginnings of turning the old cricket ground into what the stadium that it's become started. The reality is that happened fundamentally by about the turn of the century. We now are, in this year in 2023, we now need to be looking at how we upscale and improve this venue for its life, for its contribution to the city, the state and the nation for years to come, Olympic Games or Paralympic Games or no 2032 Games. So it's right and proper that we do this work and start to be prepared for that, but using the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games as a catalyst for that is absolutely going to make sure that this is a venue that is usable for so many different outcomes and so many different uses for decades to come. Well, really, we want to make sure that this fits around the program of major events that we think are important to the life of the city, life of the state and the life of the nation. So we are framing and planning this to be between Ashes Test matches here at the Gabba. And Ashes Test match is a pretty important part of the sporting calendar of the whole of Australia. And a Test match, an Ashes Test match here at the Gabba, the Gabbatoire, as it has been known for those particular events, very important for the sporting life of the country. Absolutely. No doubt that disability advocates will be part of the process of design and finalisation of design. There was input through processes involved in that in the check design, the design that's setting the sort of baseline. But we know we can go further on that. That's part of our commitment to the International Olympic Committee and the International Paralympic Committee, that we make sure that all of the facilities that we create for these games, and indeed that those that we upgrade of current facilities and the small adjustments we make will be very much focused on accessibility.
You also mentioned that it will benefit female athletes. What exactly are you talking about? More toilets, or what do you mean?
Well, the reality is that the current change rooms here at the Gabba are designed around very much a 20th century model of how you support athletes, and that was very male focused. There are opportunities in a redesign to massively improve that and make it a better experience for female athletes.
On another sort of, element of accessibility, these two roads stand in Bolger Street. How are you going to surmount the massive issues with keeping what is a major thoroughfare open and accessible to motorists?
Well, that's all part of the work that's been undertaken to develop this proposal. There is further work and further design to occur, but fundamentally it's about taking the accessibility to this venue over top of a main avenue. It's about making sure that it's accessibility directly to and from those major public transport modes in Cross River Rail and Brisbane Metro, but also, as we heard from the Deputy Premier, that commitment under the PDA to see the further enhancement and engagement of the pedestrian accessibility for everyone on an accessible basis right through to South Bank.
Let's ask you about the Archfield Speedway, which is closing in June. Once that's done, there'll be no safe close-track environment for Brisbane Park enthusiasts. Do you have a plan for that sort of activity?
I certainly know that the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport has been working with and talking to the motorsport community about that issue. The Speedway at Archerfield is a private facility, and we're not in a position to intervene in those decisions. But we have been certainly working with that motorsport community to identify and provide some assistance in identifying potential alternatives into the future. Oh, look, I don't want to directly associate hoon behaviour with people not having access to a speedway. I think the people who are involved in the motorsport industry are responsible drivers. But I do know that it's important that we provide support for motorsport activities, and there's a range of ways in which this government has done that. And I know that, as I say, the department has been working with the motorsport community to look at what solutions there are beyond this private company closing Archfield.
Just on youth crime, if we can. The opposition has released their policy, 3 points in it. Any merit to the points they're pushing?
Oh, look, I know that the government has its legislation being introduced to the Parliament this week. Look forward to that being progressed and the opportunity for our principles to be put in place. But equally, in relation to the opposition and their claim at having a policy at last on something, it's interesting that so much of it is really just a throwback to the Newman government. So it really just reiterate that David Crisafulli is just a mini-me Campbell Newman.
So what do you think their call to reinstate pension plans?
Well, I think it's been established and made clear that breach of bail is not something that actually has achieved any outcomes in terms of resulting in those offenders who are a risk to the community being out of the community for any longer. It wasn't successful in that regard. I think what we need to be focused on is what is the first principle in the Youth Justice Act, which is that community safety should come first, and that needs to be implied and understood by everyone involved in the system.
And on your early intervention program, should there be KPIs set in place so that we know if they're actually doing their job and keeping kids out of crime?
On all regards, in any matters that require government support, it's important that we try and keep an eye on them to ensure that they deliver. And I'd be happy to look at, and I know the government will be continually keen to look at all measures that we can take to make sure that services that we've got out there that are they're designed to make a difference are actually making a difference. Look, I think we've got to look at all measures in what we do. I think there are some elements of the system that we have now that are working, and clearly from the concerns that there are in the community, there are some elements that are not, or that are not meeting community expectations. Let's continue to work on how we can improve things. The Premier is out in the community right across the state all the time, talking to people about their concerns, talking to the people in their community. I'm sure she'll be in Toowoomba sometime soon. Well, as I say, the first principle of our youth justice arrangements is community safety must come first. So that's the first principle in the current legislation. What we need to do is make sure that we see all actors in the system supporting that.
Any other questions for Matt and Sam?
Yes.
Well, I know that prospect has been something that, in terms of keeping in the background some planning, these are decisions that are not made for some time yet to come. The Lord Mayor's a member of the organising committee. I'm not. He's probably in a better place to talk about that than I am. But what I will say is that I know I've had some conversations with Cricket Australia, with the ICC about that prospect, and it is something that I think would be a very positive thing to add to what we do as part of our games. But that's ultimately a matter for the organising committee in consultation with the IOC.
Thanks, everyone. A couple of words for Matt and Sam.
We'll just grab some quick questions. Thanks, buddy. Oh, thank you, mate. You've been really good today.
Yeah, that's it. Come in, guys.
Just come right in. Yeah.
Get yourself comfy. We might.
You get up. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yep, Matt McShane.
Sam White.
Guys, you've got travelled extensively for your sport. You go to plenty of venues all around the world. How does the Gabba rate accessibility and ease of use frame?
Well, obviously just been here as a spectator and a fan of the Brisbane Lions and cricket here. So it's obviously an older facility, so it has its issues with accessibility and sort of viewing. So yeah, it's desperate for an upgrade, I think.
What about on the public transport?
I've never taken public transport here. I'm a reasonably new resident of Brisbane, so I wouldn't be able to say too much on public transport.
Cool. Brisbane's Brisbane. Public transport, you know, it's an awesome facility and in the middle of the city nearly, so it's always going to be easy to catch public transport. And I think with the Cross River Rail that's been underway for a while now, it's going to be awesome.
So what would you like to see here? What would make accessibility easier, better? What do you need? Obviously not a bunch of steps.
I think when you go to newer stadiums, you get a good idea of what is capable. Ease of access to your seats from public transport and access to get food and drinks and bathrooms and those kind of things.
What are some of those examples that you've actually been to?
Best for me, you might have one, but best for me was in Brooklyn, and Marvel Stadium down in Melbourne's really good.
Yeah, I said I'm originally from Adelaide, and the new Adelaide Oval redevelopment has been really, really good. My experience there, as the Minister mentioned, you go in on the one level, don't really have to go sort of up or down. I mean, there are opportunities to go up or down depending on where you're sitting, but for the most part, it's all just that single level access, which is really important.
How much does accessibility issues, you think, prevent or dissuade people, with accessibility challenges from going to sport, enjoying sport, live sport experience?
Yeah, it's huge. It's not just sport, it's restaurants and bars and stuff. Like most people with a physical disability of some sort probably Google it to see how easy it's going to be, and if it's not much information out there or it looks too hard, they probably won't bother.
Do you think that has spin-off effects for people getting involved in sports, Paralympic sports, para-sports, if they can't go and see things, it makes it harder for them to get involved?
Oh, of course. Like I got involved in para sport because I grew up going to sport, and that was my passion of mine from going to watch live sport. Yeah.
Do you think it's a long time coming and perhaps should have been done a lot earlier?
You can always say that, right? Yeah. The Brisbane's an old city. It takes a little while for things to catch up. We're in Queensland. We've got a house built up stories, so it's one of those things about being in Queensland. But I think it's much better now than when I first started pushing around in a chair, and I can only imagine for the next generation of people it's going to be awesome.
No, I'm all good.
He's a Doggies fan, so maybe a shout out to the...
Yeah. Shout out to Bevo and the boys. I couldn't hear anyone. Yeah, so...
It'd be great.
I'll let you...